Welcome. It's time for the dailies. Well, at least the front pages. We'll be letting you guys know what to meet when you decide to pick up any of these. The Sun, the Punch, the Tribune, and of course, the Vanguard newspapers this morning. I've got with me Winfrey. Thank you very much for joining. All right, so would you like to begin? What papers do you have?
Okay, so here I have the Daily Sun, and for the major headlines there, we have insecurity. Obi Buddy George Middle Belt Forum raise alarm, says kidnapping, banditry have worsened. Of course, definitely, this is something we've heard a lot about from last year into this year. By the side of the masthead there, we have Rivers crisis dipping as court voids state's 2024 budget, redeployment of clerk, deputy clerk. Orders Governor Fubara to represent budget to legally constitute assembly. We have that on page 3. Read that for more. So at the bottom strip there, we have Tinubu run inclusive government, says can. So yeah, that's all I'm taking for the Daily Sun.
I just wanted to touch on that, and there was a reiteration on the Punch newspaper regarding the abductions instance, where it talked about most abductions in Abuja not being reported, which is actually very true.
Yeah, it's very true.
It was in Abuja, I think, in October, and that was a topic while we're having this conversation as gentlemen. The fact that it is actually rife in the north, and only what you get to hear are just little pieces. It's something that happens almost on a weekly basis instead of Abuja, these small little kidnappings and stuff like that. So it's a worrying instance, but we will revisit that if we find it on another headline. Let me move on now to the Tribune newspaper, where we have this headline here. Crisis looms in Plateau Assembly. Sacked 16 lawmakers move to resume legislative duties. They are a threat. Invitation to anarchy, APC says. At the top for the Tribune, Rivers Assembly crisis court nullifies passage of 2024 budget by 5 members, says governor has no power to tamper with assembly funds, and 5,081 killed as FRSC reduced crashes by 22% in 2023. Congratulations, that's good news. Why Nigerian economy is in crisis, stagflation. This is by economists, and you'd find that one on page 20 of the Daily Tribune. There's more on the front page for the Tribune. Tinubu directs student loans expansion, says education tax to fund scheme. Application process will be strictly tech-driven. Yeah. And to the side of the photo story about an explosion, government will sit on investigative reports, says the minister. As Makinde submits reports to Tinubu, victims will be compensated, says the CIN. And in Ondo, governorship aspirants absent as Aida Tiwa meet APC stakeholders. And finally, Liberia holds presidential inauguration as Balkai suffers heat stroke. Did you see the video? Poor gentleman. Inaugural speech. I can't imagine the embarrassment that he could be facing now. But then again, that's secondary. Primarily is his state of health. What could have happened exactly? Because he seemed very disoriented at the podium. For your inaugural speech, he had to be gathered with his security aides and then moved out of the vicinity. But I'm hoping that this doesn't have any effect on whatever it is that he is, he's going to do. But of course, you know the rule, the news rounds will start.
Definitely, but I think this takes my mind to, what the process of appointments of this guy, public office, do you understand? Talk about health tests, which is definitely very, very important. So literally check the health, make sure the person is of good state of mind.
Exhaustion is also
body.
something that could just happen because of all the activities you have to go through.
Yeah, of course.
If you remember, I think about 10 years ago, Hillary Clinton had one of those instances where she was, just after a function, she actually almost collapsed.
Yeah, true.
So it could, plus the African sun these days.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I think there are things that can happen, things that can put right beside. So here for the Punch,
Vanguard, actually.
For the Vanguard, I'll be taking the major headline here is rumpus over relocation of federal agencies to Lagos. I will take what's here underneath the image. We have Rivers crisis, confusion over conflicting court orders. We have that on page 7. And at the top there, we have on the strip, non-oil exports fall 24% to $4.46 billion. CBN data. We have that on page 19. We have on the left there, we have Super Eagles in lackluster win over Guinea-Bissau as Equatorial Guinea crush Cote d'Ivoire. We have that on page 30, and that's updates on 2023 AFCON. To the right of that, we have Court of Appeal, 16 sacked, play 2 PDP lawmakers to resume plenary today. And Tinubu sensitive to Nigeria's challenges, says CAN. We have that on page 8 for more. And moving to the side of the image there, we have kidnapping. Tinubu approves emergency procurement of tracking equipment. It's very, very essential, I must say. And below that, we have federal government to fund students' loan scheme with education tax, FIRS boss. We have that on page 9. Yeah. So below there, we have over 1.1 million new COVID-19 cases recorded in 28 days globally. We have that from WHO on page 8. Federal government, governors to suspend nuisance taxes nationwide, says presidential committee. We have that on page 8.
The choice of word for nuisance taxes is actually very, very appealing, in quote, I would say.
Yeah, yes.
I've always referred to them as that, even from before now. The headline regarding the rumpus over relocation of federal agencies, I think fans coming back to Lagos, or at least certain units of it, and I think parts of the CBN as well. However, people have said that this is going to affect its activities, whether negatively or positively. I'm thinking exactly why are they coming back to Lagos? There are certain units in Lagos of these parastatals that are absolutely, what's the word now? Underrun, terrible, rubbish at the moment.
Abandoned?
However, there is focus on using more tech apparatus to drive them.
Yes.
So hopefully, if Lagos is the center of commerce, perhaps maybe that would help. But activity, actually, not just commerce.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing, for me, I think it's one thing to say, fine, a lot of things will be tech-driven, considering the loan, the headline on the loan, about the loan,
exactly.
The student's loan as well. But at the same time, is important to look and ask, do we have the infrastructure to make sure that that is actually delivered properly? Also, does that not automatically segregate the people that can apply for these loans? Just saying. So these are the questions that literally just come to my mind.
Well,
but
if it's tech-driven, then you really don't have any boundaries, because you could be anywhere in the country and still apply.
I talk about
whatever it is.
Affordability.
But how far the immigrations process? Remember, they said from last month or 2 weeks ago that it was going to be strictly tech-driven. I don't know how that's gone. It was activated last week or so. So maybe if we use that as a measure, then we'd know exactly.
That's what I'm saying. I'm talking about affordability and accessibility. Yes, I mean, talking about student loans. The idea of this is to help people who can normally and naturally not afford it. Do you understand? So if you, well, I mean, it's all for the best, I guess.
All for the best. Let's hope for it.
Yes.
Well, prayer is what we need in Nigeria.
We have a lot of that, don't you think?
Listen, yeah, we've got more coming inside of Wake Up Nigeria. If you stay tuned, you'd get to taste what we're cooking inside the kitchen. Let's talk to The Rock right now.